So in this video, I wanted to talk about the pens that I've been using in August 2020. In this series, I talk about the pens and pencils and other things that I've been using, the ones that have been on my desk, not things I think you should buy or things I think that are great, just kind of what I've been using. So may not be super exciting because I've been using a lot of the same stuff and you've seen some of these before, but this is just an honest look into what I've been using. First up, this is called the Lamy Dialogue 3. It's a retractable fountain pen. I bought it used a few months ago because I wanted to get a feel for a good retractable fountain pen. I had bought the Platinum Curidas, whatever it's called, and I really did not like it. It cost me maybe $75, $80, and that was really just not money well spent. So I followed it up by purchasing this Lamy Dialogue. I got a really good deal on it, used in great shape with the 14K bicolor gold nib from Lamy, which I actually really like. And I've really been enjoying this pen. It's really well made. It's a twist retractable, which is a little bit better for my money than a push button, at least in the case of a fountain pen. And I like it more than the Vanishing Point or the Curidas. It's a little bit wide. It has a clip that I don't use. The action is not really possible to do one-handed unless you do something, weird like this. It's not, you really need two hands to do it, but it's just a really well-behaved pen. It's made really well. It's fun to use. It's just a nice change of pace. It's at your desk and you could just start writing with it with that little twist, no cap to fall off or twist off or anything like that. It's a cool pen. It's really well made. If you find them used, maybe you can get one for between 125 on the low side and more like 150 for a pretty fair price, which is not cheap in any respect. But the thing to keep in mind is that this nib, this Lamy 14 karat gold nib, sells for about $99 by itself. So if you're buying one of these for $150, you're actually getting like a $50 pen body and a $100 nib, assuming the nib is in good shape. Sometimes when you buy a used gold nib, it could be a little rough. So you have to be careful about that. But that's the Lamy Dialogue, and I'll do writing with everything at the very end. Then another twist retractable pen, which is really switching things up for me. This is called the Rotring 800 Ballpoint. This is a pen that I was super excited about when it first was re-released in 2018. I generally prefer the Rotring 600, which is a push-button version of this without the gold trim, but I've used the 600 so much over the past 2 years, and I've really neglected the 800 that I recently fired this one up. I put in, let's see what I'm writing with, an Easy Flow 9000 in broad, which is they're a little bit hard to find these days. I don't know if they're still making them, but I had stockpiled some maybe a year or two ago, and I have an Easy Flow 9000 broad in there, which is a really nice hybrid refill. And I just really been enjoying this pen. This one, it was selling for about $30 and the prices jumped up to like 65 and now they're maybe around 40. So I generally tell people just buy a Rotring 600 ballpoint. Don't spend the extra money getting the 800, but once in a while, I really do like the 800. The gold is obviously quite snazzy. And then the twist mechanism is really cool. Obviously, when you hand the pen to someone, and they need it for a second, they will push the button frantically, which is somewhat amusing, but also can be frustrating. And the twist, just a nice twist action. The key to the Rotring 800 is you have to find a refill where the tip does not rattle. When they added the gold here, it must be a little bit thinner of a material than the this matte black finish that they do with the 600. So some of the 800s tend to have a lot of tip rattle, but if you get the right refill, it'll fit in really nicely with no rattle. And that happens with this Easy Flow, at least for me. Next up, this is called the Pilot, the Petite one or the Petite one. And this is a really small mini fountain pen. It's basically a tiny version of the Pilot Varsity or the V pen, whatever you want to call it. And it has the same interior, the same feed, that kind of square folded nib as the Varsity. And it's just a like the Varsity, it's a true workhorse. You could have this pen sitting in your desk for 6 or 8 months, not use it, and then you take it out and it will immediately start writing, no problem. Pilot has done some real magic with the Varsity and this pen in order to get that to happen. It's really small, so you can't use it like this. You really have to use it posted, which is fine, but it's very portable. I've never had it leak, and it's just a fun pen to keep around at your desk. It can be converted into an eyedropper. In fact, it's one of the best pens for eyedropper conversions because it has this really robust and long threading, and it uses a softer type of plastic that is really not prone to cracking. I've never cracked one of these, where I've cracked a few Platinum Preppies, which is my preferred eyedropper pen. It uses a modified version of the standard Pilot cartridge. It is a Pilot cartridge, but they use a slightly different one for this. And like I said, this piece is completely sealed off, so you can do an eyedropper with it, no problem. Just need to apply a little bit of silicone grease to there, and then you're good to go. And these things are really cheap, maybe, I don't know, $4 or $5, something like that. And they're pretty easy to find. I don't know, just a fun little pen, and it's good for note taking, which it's so reliable. Sorry about that. Next up, we have the Pilot S20 ballpoint. I've talked about this pen many times, so I'll keep it short. This one just keeps finding its way back to my desk. It's just a really beautifully made wooden pen. It just, I don't know, I feel like Pilot just knocked it out of the park with this. Metal construction here, a little bit of wood on top, nice metal in the middle, just really nicely done machined metal there. The biggest problem with this pen is it uses a non-standard refill. So you would think it would use a Parker style G2 refill, but it doesn't. It uses one of these shorter refills from Pilot. You can see the end is different, but I really like some of the refills in there. So I complain about not being able to put my Easy Flow or something like that in there. But if you go ahead and upgrade this to the BRFN series of refills, the BRFN 30 rather, then it's really a great pen. It will ship with a BRFN 10, BRF 10, I believe, or no, a BRFN 10. The naming is insane. So it'll ship with a BRFN 10, which is this version, this refill, but in a plastic body. You could upgrade to the 30, which is a slightly nicer refill than metal body. And if you buy it in the M, then you're looking at a really wide tip, which is really fun to use. It's just a nice refill, and you don't even have to upgrade it, because the stock refill is quite good. It's the same refill you would get in a Dr. Grip pen. This is just a really nice series, the S20. Comes in a pencil too that I really like, but I prefer the ballpoint. Again, I've recommended this pen so many times. Everyone's probably tired of me talking about it, but it is just something that is constantly I'm putting away into like the deep recesses of my pen storage, and then a couple weeks later I'm going back to find it. And lastly, we have this pen here. This is called the Tombow Zoom 505. It's an aluminum bodied pen. Obviously it's a rollerball style pen. Uses a Tombow proprietary refill. And this one's just been on my desk because I've been sort of working my way through the line of Tombow pens in the way I'm sometimes do. I'll focus in on one manufacturer and try to get some of their rarer, more interesting pens, and lately that focus has been on Tombow. So this is the Zoom 505, but you could see here that it's actually a special edition Zoom 505. It's the Centennial version. It's no different than the 505, but it just came out in some different colors, like this red. The Zoom 505 tends to come in more traditional colors, like black and silver. But if you want it in red, it's sold in that. It's also sold in Havana, or is like a kind of a tortoise shell, which is pretty cool. And it's a metal body, rollerball style, metal cap, metal clip, all that. This piece is a hard rubber, so grippy rubber. And it has this weird little Tombow refill in it, which I feel like is probably the main reason why this pen has not gotten more attention. It uses this proprietary refill, which is just a liquid ink rollerball. It's fine. I believe it's pigmented too, so it has some water staying capabilities, but it's just an okay refill. It's nothing special, but it is a strange size, so it makes the pen a little bit less interesting than it would be. Oh look, and it's leaking a little bit. That's fun. So I'll have to clean this pen, but it is a fun pen to use, and it's really nicely made. It's pretty low key, so I think that's one of the reasons you don't see it so much, is it's understated, but very nicely made. And the refill is leaking a little bit, so that's annoying. So let's get into the writing with each of these. So first up is the Lamy Dialogue 3. I can't write. I'm distracted by that ink spill. Dialogue 3. This is really nice. This is with a fine gold nib. Really smooth. Has a little bit of bounce to it. Just a really fun nib. I really like Lamy's steel nibs, so I never thought I would really invest in their gold nibs. But having gotten a few at this point, I do think it's really just a really solid, fun to use nib. I don't think, generally speaking, you should opt for the Lamy nib, get the steel, but once in a while, go ahead and get the gold, and I think you'll be really happy with it. Next up, we have the Rotring 800 with the Easy Flow 9000, and this is just the broad, so it's a really broad refill. It's really a dark blue, super smooth, fun to use. Easy Flow 9000 in medium is completely fine. I wouldn't stress out about finding the broad, but if you can find it, it is nice. And now we have, this is the Pilot Petite 1. This thing will write no different than a Pilot Varsity. You just get it in this tiny little pen, which is good for throwing in a bag or something like that, which it won't leak. And this is just a nice little fine or medium. I think it's only a medium. Completely fine, nice writer, super reliable. And lastly, I'm gonna skip the Tombow, which was leaking. We have this is the Pilot S20 with the BRFN30M refill. And this one writes just like a nice, I would say more of a hybrid than a ballpoint refill. It's just really smooth. It is oil-based, so you would call it, traditionally you would call it a ballpoint, but it's like a lubricated modern ballpoint that writes like a really smooth, like a Jetstream type refill. And you get that really nice dark color. You do get some, it will not dry quite as quickly as a ballpoint, but it's just a really nice smooth refill that lasts forever. And that is what you would find in the S20. So those are the pens that I've been using lately. Thanks for watching.